clean teeth, is there's no, it belongs to the man in marriage.
From London, this is Piers Morgan Uncensored. Well, good evening from London and welcome to a special edition of Piers Morgan Uncensored. Andrew Tate, one-on-one. He's the most famous man you probably never heard of, with billions of views online. At one point this year, more people were searching Google for Andrew Tate than Donald Trump or Kim Kardashian. Former professional kickboxer, he was kicked off Big Brother in 2016 after a video emerged of him striking a woman. Now both claim it was a consensual sex game. He's since made millions as a pornographer and casino owner in Romania, but it's his online videos that have made him notorious across the world, posing as a playboy with fast cars, cigars, weapons and cash. He rants about his often scandalous views on women.
Or instruct a female to provide sustenance.
Cool. So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes.
Tells young men they can get as rich as him by paying for his digital life lessons.
I have 100 business tips I'm going to teach you, which will allow you to make your own money instantly.
But amid a global media backlash, the net has closed on Andrew Tate. While millions still share his videos, it's effectively banned from the web, booted off Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Okay, so I wanted to warn the viewers that I'm going to jump in occasionally to bring my own perspective. So keep watching.
To his fans, he's a misunderstood satirist and the victim of big tech censorship. As many others, he's a malicious misogynist. Tonight, I'll try and get to the truth. Well, some of the opinions Andrew Tate shares in his videos are undeniably deeply offensive. We're going to show you some of them on this show. I think you should see them for yourself, not simply hear what he says about them or what other people say about them. Tens of millions of people across the world follow Andrew Tate, and with a big following comes a big responsibility, as well as a public interest in holding his views to account. If outrageous opinions are read aloud, they can be challenged and exposed for what they are. If they're silenced, the person holding these views can become a martyr. So that's why I invited Andrew Tate to come here tonight, and he joins me now live. So Andrew, well, welcome, first of all. You've come all the way from Romania to do this interview.
Correct.
What do you hope to achieve from this interview? Why are you here?
It'd be interesting to have a conversation with you. You've certainly been the subject of your own divided opinions in the world. There's a lot of people who would say some of the things you say are perhaps dangerous or toxic. So I thought you'd be a good person to speak to about this subject.
I didn't know much about you before this year, and then I suddenly became very aware of you as the world did, because, as I said earlier, you were the #1 subject searched on Google ahead of Donald Trump. Yeah. I didn't think it was even possible. Why did you get suddenly so populous?
Okay, I'm going to jump in. Okay, so I want to tell the viewers that people have different opinions, people have different views, and it is outrageous that to silence people because of their opinions. And that's a problem that I have. You know, you may not agree with their opinions, but we live in a society where freedom of speech is something that's really people will, people want to express themselves, and to completely silence a person because you do not agree with it, that's a really dangerous. That's a dangerous state of affairs. Not allowing a different perspective, a perspective they may not agree with it, but you silence it completely. That's very dangerous.
I exploded. I certainly didn't do that with magic. I've been on the internet for a very long time. I think in the world we live in now, as the other side, the people who disagree with me, as they get more and more tyrannical in their censorships and their hate mobs, etc., as standard masculine practices are deemed toxic. I didn't put a magic spell on everybody. I managed to accumulate a large amount of affinity with the male populace across the Western world because I'm simply saying things that many men believe, think, and feel.
The problem I would say is I want to play you just a clip off the top. This is from Joe Rogan, who's somebody I absolutely love.
Sure.
And I think it explains to me what I presume my issue with you is going to be, right?
Correct.
And you
All right.
you have absolutely got the right to try and persuade me otherwise.
Sure.
But Joe Rogan said this about you.
My 12-year-old and my 14-year-old asked me about Andrew Tate. My 14-year-old I said he's a legit world champion kickboxer. I like him a lot. Why do you like him? And I was asked him. They said he says a lot of funny stuff on Twitter and TikTok. He f***ed up with the misogynist.
Yes.
Because if he didn't do that, if he just did the pro-male stuff.
So I thought that was interesting because when I've gone over everything that's been at the center of the debate about Andrew Tate, I come down with Joe Rogan in the sense that there's a lot of stuff you say I agree with. You know, I've got 3 sons in their 20s. It's not easy actually being a young male in the modern world. And I think a lot of the things that you say about that can resonate with them. The problem comes with the, I don't know, 10, 20% or whatever of your output, which on the face of it appears to be blatant misogyny. And when you couple that with your massive influence and huge reach, that is why the social media companies have decided to effectively cancel you. I don't believe in cancellation. I don't believe in censorship particularly. That's why I've invited you to come on the show. But I do think a lot of the things you've said are blatant misogyny. Do you accept that?
So you made a very interesting point there. You just said on the face of it appeared to be blatantly misogynistic. I understand that on the face of some of the long format content I've made, if you're going to take a few seconds out of hours, chop it up, put it all over social media, accompanied with my massive fame, that things can absolutely not be taken out of context. I do not hate women in any regard. I have no negative relationship with women. No women have come forward saying I've hurt them. I have no criminal record for hurting women. There's no way I can be seen as the face or the devil in regards to how men treat women on the planet. I'm absolutely and utterly the opposite.
Okay, let's make the record very clear. Andrew Tate himself said he's a pimp. So a pimp is somebody who has a lot of women, and he uses the women to gain money. All right, and you can imagine that the relationship between a pimp and the woman is not going to be really like a good relationship. Let's be honest. Let's put things really into perspective. So I cannot imagine that there is a really healthy relationship between a pimp and his woman. So let's put that out there first.
I believe protecting and providing. I've been misunderstood. There's been large contingents of people who have tried very hard to purport lies about me. And the truth of the matter is, I've been producing content for a very long time. Hours and hours of videos been cut down to 2 or 3 seconds of clip. Those clips have gone viral and people misunderstand me.
But I think you've used this phrase and be taken out of context. And I'm not sure that is correct in the sense that it still comes out of your mouth. Some of the things you've said, I just think are blatantly.
Well, let's do them. Let's go
through some.
Sure.
Right. So you said this about Me Too stroke rape. This is probably 40% of the reason I moved to Romania. In Eastern Europe, none of this garbage flies. You go to the police and say he raped me back in 1988. They'll say, well, you should have done something about it back then.
Yeah, so the point I was making was obviously at the height of the Me Too scandal, and also if we look at Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, there's been a lot of high-profile cases where men have been accused of things they did not do without evidence. Their lives have been completely and utterly destroyed. Right. When I say these things, people sit and say that, oh, he hates women. I don't hate women. I think rape is disgusting. I would take a stronger stance on rape than the British government. I think these people should face the death penalty. But to sit and say that women without evidence can go forward and just make up accusations against men, even though they've been repeatedly proven to destroy men's lives at will, is absolutely not.
What about a woman who was raped back in 1988? Goes to the police.
Then the man should face absolute complete justice.
But you understand that when that clip appears on TikTok as a clip, and all right,
as a clip, completely.
Okay.
I mean, I don't get this nonsense. Okay, if you believe somebody did wrong to you, yes, you can go to the law and sue that person. Why are we having this discussion about this? If somebody done something really bad, maybe 10 years, 20 years ago, and if you know the person, I think we can agree that we live in a society where there's respect for the law. So you can go to the authorities and bring your case, and you can go to the justice system and present your case. Why are we having this discussion about that? I mean, uh, it's more of like media. It's all about media buzz. Okay. Otherwise, it wouldn't even have attention. All right. If somebody done something wrong to me, I'm gonna sue them, or I'm gonna go to the authority and explain it and present my case. And the end of the story, and then let the justice decide. What's this the fuss about it?
But it's also what came out of your mouth. You accept that when that appears on TikTok, a lot of young, maybe not as smart as you, young men, right? Impressionable, teenagers, will read that and go, what's he saying? Is he saying that rape doesn't exist?
No, I completely. I'm not going to sit here as a professional and say that I can't be taken out of context. What I will say is that one small sentence you've taken was from a 1-hour video where I explained that, of course, rape is disgusting. Of course, everybody should be punished for their crimes regardless of when they happen. But people are not perfect, male and female. And if you give women the opportunity to destroy men's lives without evidence, there's going to be a contingent of women who will do that. I'm trying to make a balanced and nuanced argument in a world where people have no attention span. They're going to take a few seconds, put it online, decide someone's good or bad, not be interested in the longer format video. And here I am. No, I'm certainly a person who takes personal responsibility. That's who I am as a person. But we live in a world now with TikTok videos 5 or 6 seconds long. There's no content.
Do you think women are the property of men?
No. The point I was making.
Why have you said?
So as far as accusation is concerned, my stance is very simple. I do not believe anything that this people, the accusation that you see on the media. I don't believe that. If somebody is accused of a crime, I don't have any say. I'm just let the system, the judicial system, decide that. The justice system decide that. I do not try to I don't know, blame or throw an accusation at that person without really knowing the details of what happened. That should not be our goal. If somebody is accused of, let's say, of a sexual misconduct or of a rape, of any crime, you as an observer, you shouldn't have any say about that. Because most of the time people, they just want to talk on a podcast and everybody has their opinions. But you got to reserve your opinion when it comes to a crime, all right? Because they have to go through a process. They have to go through the justice system, and then they have to present the case. They have to present their evidences. So you should never try to say the person is at fault even before the evidence. All right, I believe firmly, the person is innocent until proven guilty. So watching through the media, reading, that's not going to cut it. So as an observer, as a person who watches the media, we should all reserve judgment when it comes to accusations and allegations.
Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle, and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the Muslim.
So you do think that the woman becomes the man?
I think she takes his last name.
I mean, let's watch the clip that you said about
sure,
so that we can get it in context.
So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Absolutely.
But
all right, let me make very clarification. Okay, so Andrew Tate is basically saying a woman is a property of man. Let's not go back and forth. That's what he said. He doesn't want to be seen as weak. All right, so if you see it around the world, no one believes that woman is a property of man. All right, I came from a very traditional background, okay, where women, they know their places, men, they know their places, but under no circumstances were men given the freedom to say, she is my property, okay? This is something that the majority of cultures, nobody believes that, okay? So if you think the woman is a property of man, it is completely false. And they also you also join people like ISIS or Taliban, where women they have no say in in anything. All right, so that's a very extreme view of of characterizing women. Okay, but the majority, the mainstream across the world, they do not believe woman is a property of man, even though women have some sort of a special role in her, even though she has her position in society, but as a matter of property, absolutely not.
I've been married twice, as it turns out, and on both occasions, I didn't believe that the woman was being handed to me as chattel, as property.
Perhaps the way the reason I'm asked that question repeatedly, I'm asked in a loaded way.
So would you rephrase what you said there?
All right, you should just say, all right, I do not believe what I said was wrong. I do not believe women are property of men. And let's move on. I mean, he doesn't want to come across as somebody who said something and doesn't want to change it. No, you don't want to do that. Okay. You don't want to be really you don't want to be very rigid in your views or in your opinions when you are wrong. So you got to admit it and move on. What's the point?
Now, that's a good interesting point about phrasing. The way I would say things before I was famous, I have to take personal responsibility and accept that if I make a video that 500 people see and 1% of them misunderstand it, that's not a problem. If I make a video that 5 million people see and 1% of them understand.
So specifically on that point,
no. I mean, your opinion should be consistent. You cannot just change your opinion because of your audience that you have. All right. If you believe the women are properties, it doesn't matter the size of the audience. Okay. Which one is it? Are you all right? What's your opinion? All right, now suddenly your opinion changes because you have a bigger reach. I think that's not consistent, and that's very misleading.
I think my sister is her husband's property.
She took his last name. She married him. She wanted to join his family. She has said it herself.
Right. So she's
still a sovereign individual.
All right, taking somebody's last name is no way, a sign of property. Okay, that's more of tradition, but it doesn't mean that the woman is your property. That's completely out of reach.
Individual. She's absolutely not.
But property means that the husband owns your sister.
Listen, my friend, if we want to argue about this, you need to go back to the Bible, to the Quran. You need to argue with religious.
No, I'm not talking about anything in the Bible or Quran.
But that's what it says.
Yeah, no, but okay, Andrew, you're wrong again. The Bible and the Quran, they never say woman is a property of man. All right, you see, this on this topic, Andrew Tate is very wrong, but he doesn't want to admit it. Okay, even in the very traditional religious way, woman is never a property. All right. Yes, women have a secondary role, but it's never says it's never a property. So let's move on. I mean, he doesn't want to admit the fact that he made a mistake. All right, or there is a flaw in his thinking. Then we have to go back and forth about that. I think let's move on.
I'm asking you what you think.
I think that if a woman marries a man and she decides to take his last name, that they have different roles and responsibilities within that marriage, and I believe that.
That's not the question.
I believe the father.
Don't behave like a politician.
The father hands her to the man.
Right, don't be a politician, because I think you're a straight talker,
Sure.
right? You keep telling me you're a straight talker. I think my sister is her husband's property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could.
What is that supposed to mean? Andrew is trying to really playing it smart here, but that's not smart. You're trying to pull a wool over our eyes. Okay, you're trying to adjust your point of view because you have different you have a reach, a different fame. Okay, I think that's a very dishonest way. If you really believe women are the property of men, you should say so. Okay, you shouldn't sugarcoat the issue. Right now, he's trying to to say the person's point. He's acting like a politician. He's trying to walk around the issue. You got to assume whether you believe women are property of men or not. Okay, which one is it? All right, that's if you believe women are property of men, that's your opinion. We can, we can disagree or we can agree. But don't think that we do not, don't take us as fools. We do not understand, the point that you're making. All right, you gotta be, if you're a straight shooter, you gotta tell us like it is. At some point you have a different view because you don't have enough audience. Now you have to change it because you have bigger audience. I think your opinion, if you really believe, if you really believe women are property of men, you should stand on that. And you cannot just change it because you have now you are more famous. I think that's very disingenuous, and we're not going to be taken for a ride.
Phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe.
Yeah,
but that's not the point. That's not the point.
Other people use when they ask me the question.
But as an equal partner in a loving union, that's what marriage actually means. It doesn't mean that when you get married, the woman is given to you as a bit of chattel.
Agreed.
So why say it?
But that's the way that people ask me the question. People say to me, they ask.
Oh, hang on. You can't blame people for asking you questions. Surely, if you want to be accountable for what you've said, you've got to own your responses, not blame the question.
I own the response.
Let me ask you a question now, and you say something, and then say, "Well,
okay, guys. On this point, he completely butchered. Okay. I would respect if you have a different opinion, but you are really backpedaling. We don't know exactly which one you believe. So this is on this point. Andrew completely missed the opportunity to make it clear his opinion, and I think it's a disservice to all of us.
Actually, I blame you for asking.
I understand, Piers. I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So
she belongs to the man.
Right. So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage. Correct.
Right. You see, that to me is misogyny.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Right. But do you not understand why people think it is misogyny?
So
I understand.
It took us 10 minutes to get to a point. That's crazy.
And why some people can be very offended by what I say. What they do is they take a point like that and they ignore all the other points I make the other way around.
Yeah, that's why I've repeatedly asked you about that line to see if you've changed your position.
But even then, that's completely wrong. I mean, it's completely false. It's not. Maybe in your world, but I don't believe that my wife is my property. She belongs to me. I mean, yes, we are in a marriage. We are married. I take the lead when it comes to responsibilities, but that doesn't mean that she belongs to me. You see? So that's what the point that we're going back to as a property. And nobody, as I mentioned earlier, nobody believes that the women should be a property of man. That's almost a very popular viewpoint across the globe. All right. Yeah, if you believe that, that's your opinion, but your opinion could be wrong.
Reality is you haven't.
It's not about changing positions. I'm a full-grown adult and I stick by the things I say and I'm responsible for them.
Which is always fine.
Absolutely.
But what you did say at the start of this little exchange, you said, I wouldn't maybe say things the same way now that I did before I was famous. And you've doubled down and said exactly the same thing.
On certain points.
So that is what you believe. That's my point.
Yes.
I'm trying to work out, look, I don't know you. We just met, right? Yeah. I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate is and what you actually believe. I don't want to twist anything at all.
Then let me make it very, very clear to the camera. I believe a woman is given to the man in marriage. I believe that. I also believe a man has a duty to protect and provide for her. I believe a man should lay down his life if something happens or his wife's life is threatened. I believe that women and children.
But that's not the point, Andrew. He's trying to go around, to make a point that nobody asked you about it. The point. Do you believe women are the property of man? That's a simple question. If you believe women are property of man, you should say so. These are the reasons why I believe women are the property of man. Okay, but don't go into the role of man or the role of woman. We already know that.
first are on the lifeboats.
But men,
I believe that men.
but a man doesn't own a woman
It's not. No. It's
unless
okay.
they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical marriage. We're talking about something else.
Yeah, but even that's exactly the point. Even in a biblical, in a Quranic context, woman is never a property, right? So I'm very familiar with this subject because I came from a very religious background, so I understand when a woman is given to a man, all right, there's no way, there's no ambiguity about whether she's a property or not. Okay, so in some contexts, women, you have to pay a dowry. That's a symbol. Okay, it's tradition. You have to pay a dowry to the parents in order to get to get married. But that doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that she's your property. All right, that idea is completely, by the way, it's completely false. It doesn't. Maybe it exists in rare occasions, but it's generally it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I'm a Christian. I don't believe that I own my wife.
Do you believe your wife was given away to you and she took your last name?
I believe that there is a process where a father traditionally walks his daughter down the aisle and hands his daughter to this man, and they stand there and become a union of two loving in a partnership. No, there's no ownership involved.
I didn't say
He's not selling her. The father of the bride isn't selling his daughter.
no, absolutely.
That's what property means.
She becomes a member of your family.
Is it?
I think we're arguing over semantics.
We're not, though, because fundamentally, I don't believe a man owns a woman. You do.
Well, I don't think a man owns any sovereign individual. I don't think we live in the world.
All right, so you have to understand why he believes, women are belongs to man. You have to understand his background. So he's a pimp and he's a pornographer. All right, and as I said earlier, a pimp owns a woman. All right, so a pimp considers those women as his properties, and that they go out and bring, work for him, all right, and they bring money. So in that context, if you understand it from that perspective, of course, he tend to believe the woman belongs to man. So you have to understand the background of the people, because when you hold the belief that doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from the experiences, all right? It comes from experience where it led you to a belief, all right? If I say, let's say the reverse. If I say men are the property of women, how did I come to that point? Because there must have been experiences. There must have been some sort of, to the point where, let's say, my experiences sometimes lead me to believe to come to a point. So you have to understand the person's perspective, the personal background, why they believe what they believe, because they are completely related. They're not separated.
Well, slavery. I don't own any man or any woman.
Right.
Nobody owns.
But when you
anybody.
use phrases like property, that's what you imply.
I understand.
And so my point again is, you're a smart guy, right? There's no denying it. You're smart. You're a good talker. I've seen a lot of the stuff. But when what I don't think you quite fully understand.
No, I understand
is
very well.
When young, impressionable people who are not as smart see things like, I think my sister is her husband's property, yes, and you've just reaffirmed that belief. They think that they have the right to own women.
I understand that very well, Piers.
That's why people think you're a misogynist.
Completely. I understand all of this very well, which is why when you're saying I was backtracking, I'm wrong.
Do you have any regret, though, over the way you phrased this stuff?
Well, this is the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, when I was not nearly as famous and I was making long format content, I was not.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
Man the planet, and that few seconds can be taken out of context. That was not my anticipation.
No, but it's still what you believe. It's what you believe now. So what's the difference?
It's not about. You're asking me. You're saying that young people who are.
If you said to me, look, Piers, honestly, I've had time to think about this, and I wish I hadn't said it. I don't believe that. That's one thing. Actually, you said the opposite. You said, actually, that's what I think. Yeah.
I think that when
it doesn't really matter whether you recorded it when you're famous or not famous. It's what you actually believe, right?
I believe that a man has a duty to protect and provide for a woman.
That's
I
not the
believe
point.
that,
That's not the
woman's
point.
Father gives her away to the man. That's what I believe, and that's
That's
in
not
my
the point,
marriage, that's the circumstance I'm going to live under. If people want to live in a different scenario, that's completely theirs.
Okay.
Their prerogative.
So here he's completely going sidetrack. We are not talking about the responsibility as a man. I want to make it very clear because I know there are a lot of fans, fanatics of Andrew Tate. I followed him. I understand. I know what he's doing. All right. I follow him. I watch a lot of his videos. So we are not talking about the responsibility as a man. All right. Taking a responsibility, taking the lead when it comes to your house. All right. When it comes to the relationship between your children, your wife, you are supposed to be somebody who's leading the way. Okay. We are not talking about that, but that's why he's sidetracking. But we spent like 14 minutes talking about whether he believes women are the property of man or properties of man or not. And unfortunately, he failed to clarify the point. And we're going back and forth. And he did very disservice to himself. Okay. And the fact that he keeps saying, oh, I have a different audience right now, so I have to adjust my thinking. That's completely nonsense. So if I believe something today, if I believe the women are the property of man, so when I became famous, I have to adjust my position, my thinking. That's not very manly. All right. That's not honest.
You went on to say about authority over women. If I have a responsibility over it, I must have a degree of authority. Yeah. For the same reason, if I have responsibility over and people are going to use their mind, it's an example, an analogy, responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority. Yeah. So you believe as part of your ownership or your property of the woman, you have authority over her.
No, I believe if you have
That's what you said.
I believe if you have responsibility over something, you have to have a degree of authority. You can't be responsible.
Yeah, but authority means, again, that you're the boss.
The point I'm making, if you'll please let me finish at this point, the point I was trying to make is talking about the safety of the woman. She was walking alone at night, and I was saying, well, I wouldn't let my woman walk alone at night. And they said, well, you're not in charge of her. You don't get to decide what she does. I said, I understand, but if I'm responsible for her safety, and I'm the person who's burdened with making sure she is safe, I have to have the authority to say, don't put yourself in unsafe situations. The two things are linked.
Well, you don't authority. You can absolutely have the right to say to the woman you're with, I don't think you should. But ultimately,
if she decides, then I can't force her.
Right. So authority implies that you have the ability to control someone.
No, authority implies that I have the moral right to sit and say that that's an irresponsible thing to do, and I'm responsible.
That's not what authority means.
Well, I'm not.
All right. Let's make it very clear. All right. As a man, you have the saying when it comes to your wife or when it comes to your girlfriend. All right. You have the right to point out things that you don't agree with. Okay. So I don't think there should be any debate around that. That's not the debate that we are talking about. Okay. Andrew Tate really just dragged the debate. We are 15 minutes in. We're still into a briar patch. We cannot get out, and unfortunately, he is not able to really clarify his position. He's backtracking. He's going back and forth. I don't think he's not doing good to himself.
If you think I'm going to lock somebody up in their room, is that what you're implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that if I
just a different description of what authority.
If I have responsibility for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over this woman.
All right, let's take a break.
I think you're trying to.
I'm only trying to get to what you think. Honestly, I am. I come with no agenda here at all.
I understand. And I'm explaining very, very clearly. If I have responsibility over said subject, I have to have authority over it. So let me say you have children, right?
Right.
You have responsibility for them.
No, I have legal authority over my children. That is very different to having legal authority over my wife or my female partner.
Completely. But the point I'm trying to make,
So you accept that?
I accept that
Because you used the analogy of responsibility for a child.
my friend, these are
These are actually really important things.
they're
actually.
important things, but you interrupt me every 5 seconds. So it's hard for me to actually explain my point. The point I'm making here is very simple. You have children and you're responsible for their safety. So you're gonna have authority to say don't go out at night, perhaps because you want them to be safe.
I have legal authority.
You have a legal authority.
Yeah.
Legal authority. I'm saying that if I had a woman, and the question where you've raised this soundbite from, I was asked about protecting a woman, making sure she's safe. And I would say I wouldn't want her to go out at night on her own because I'm responsible for her safety. And someone said, well, you don't have authority over her to do that. And I said, well, no, I can't force her to stay inside. But if she were to ask me, how do I protect myself at night? I would say, well, you should stay inside. That's how you should do it.
I don't have an issue with what
So
you
we
just said.
agree.
No,
It's the semantics.
No,
Laura.
it's not semantics. And this is why I don't think you quite get why there's a furore over what you said, with respect. Because the semantics point would be we're saying the same thing in different ways, but we're not. I'm saying to you that when you say I have to have some authority over a woman, I say to you, you have no right to any authority over a woman. You do over a child if it's your child, because you are the legal appointed guardian of that child.
Understood.
You're not a legally appointed guardian or authority over your wife or female partner.
Legally appointed, absolutely not. I agree. However, when it comes to things like personal responsibility or personal safety, men, largely by society, are accepted. We're the protectors and providers. We can sit here and pretend that in the world we live in, if me and my wife were walking down the street and men were to come up and try and attack us, I wouldn't be the one fighting. But we both know in reality I would.
Right.
I have a degree of responsibility to protect her. So if I have a degree of responsibility to protect her physically, then the point I'm trying to make is I will do my best to make sure she's never putting herself in unsafe
You wish you
situation.
hadn't used the word authority.
The authority is something that she would give to me. She would come to me and say, how can I make sure I'm as safe as possible?
But I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to point out that's not what authority means.
If someone gives, a person can give
voluntary authority is not authority.
No, but that's the point.
It's not.
Piers,
Andrew, it's not.
Piers, if a woman comes to me and says, I want you to keep me safe, she is handing me authority for her safety.
But do you understand the difference between having authority over somebody and somebody giving you permission to have authority?
Completely. I never said
one is consensual and one is.
But why are we pretending I do unconsensual things?
Because you literally say I must have a degree of authority. I have to have some authority. And the point
only if I'm responsible for her safety. If I'm not responsible for her safety, I don't have authority.
If your position now is that with her permission, I would like to have authority when we go out at night to protect her, that's a different.
That was always my position.
But that's not what you said.
But that was always my position.
So again, I simply say to you,
It is what I said.
Do you wish you'd phrased it a different way?
No, because we're talking about long format copy where I'm talking about a woman who has come to me and said, you're responsible for making sure I'm safe. I said, well, then I have to make the decisions.
But an 18-year-old boy reads, I must have some authority over a woman. What do you think he thinks?
Well, I understand that. And I said this earlier when you tried to say I was backtracking, which I'm not doing.
No, actually, I'm not. I don't want to. Okay. I'm not trying to gotcha you.
Go.
I'm trying to work out exactly what.
I understand with massive responsibility. I understand that a percentage of the population are always going to take everything that's said by anybody out of context.
Would you change the wording of what you said?
No, I would just encourage people to watch my long format copy and understand.
Would you tell an 18-year-old boy you don't have?
So this is just taking a lot of time.
You would say that.
Unless a woman comes to him and says, you're responsible for my safety, please make sure to keep me safe.
I could sign up to.
Well, then we agree.
Yeah, but I don't agree with what you said before.
Because you're taking a soundbite from a 2-hour
Yeah, but you haven't been taken out of context because I read you the entire sentence. It's
very you've ignored all the context around the sentence, my friend.
You can't ignore a sentence that says, I must have a degree of authority.
But you can when there's a 2-hour conversation where a woman is telling me if she makes me responsible for her safety and me explaining, well, if I'm responsible for your safety, I have the authority to make decisions. So yes, you've ignored all the context.
Do you respect women?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Do you think that 18, 19-year-old women are more attractive than 25-year-old women?
I think there's attractive people. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Well, it's not really, is it?
I can't.
You know why I'm asking you?
Of course I do, but I can't sit here and say.
For the benefit of viewers who don't know why I'm asking, you said this. In general, this is also one of the reasons men find youth attractive. You want to blow up the internet? I'll blow up the internet right effing now. The reason 18 and 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25-year-olds is because they've been through less dick. People say, oh, you can't say that, but yes, I can. A 19-year-old is more attractive than a 26-year-old woman, and I'll tell you why. Because that 26-year-old has talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for me to clean up. That.
I mean, that's a completely personal preference, because I do not believe that 18 years old. I mean, some of the 18 years old, you think they are like babies. They're so I don't know, so childish. I mean, I don't see myself dating an 18-year-old because they are not ready. They don't know nothing about life. All right. So, I do not agree with the fact that it's better to date an 18-year-old than dating a 25-year-old. All right. But if you want to say from, let's say from procreation standpoint, if you think that an 18-year-old is the best fitted to procreate, to bear a child, yes, that's from biology. Yes, I can agree with that. But but as far as maturity is concerned, as far as being able to have a like intellectual discussion with somebody and understand being at the same level, I don't think a lot of men will date 18-year-old because they're I see them all the time. They're very, they are still in their in their teenage years. They are not really mature, to be honest. All right. So that's a completely a question of preference, right? Yeah, but not every 20. It doesn't mean that not every 26-year-old doesn't mean that she had a lot of relationship. It doesn't really mean that. I mean, promiscuity doesn't really have a age, to be honest. All right. Some women are very promiscuous at early age. Okay. Some of them maybe are later, maybe when they are a little bit older. But to say that the age of a woman determines whether she's promiscuous or not, that's not really a factual statement.
Is misogyny.
Why?
Because you are encouraging a mindset about 25-year-old women that makes them sound out to be infinitely less desirable than 18, 19-year-olds, and having effectively been having too much sex to be taken in a more respectful way.
Well, firstly, even if that was the case, that wouldn't be misogyny.
But what did you mean by what you said?
That's not misogyny because it's not anti-women. I'm saying that an 18 or a 19-year-old woman would be more desirable.
Pretty anti-25-year-old woman.
Anti-25-year-old women we can argue, but not misogyny.
Well, that's misogyny.
No, it's full.
Being anti any.
No, that's not misogyny. That's a point of preference. Okay, he prefers younger women than older ones. Like maybe he prefers the 18-year-old than a 25 or 22-year-old. So that's his preference. I just explained. For me, I'm not really attractive to an 18-year-old. I'm sorry, I'm not. I have seen them. All right, from my experience, they are very immature. They don't know nothing about life, to be honest. So the other day I was talking to one of them, right? She was 17, and in the state I live in, the age of consent is 16. And when I asked her, how old is she? She told me she's 17. Oh, I said, oh, okay. Now I think you became an adult. She said, no, I'm still a kid. You see, even though the age of consent is 16, she's 17. She's telling me she's still not an adult yet. All right. So that's the state of affair we are in. It depends. Some women are more mature than others. So it's a question of preference. It's not, it doesn't mean that it is better to date an 18-year-old than dating a 25 or 22-year-old.
Woman at all is misogyny.
Not when I'm saying that women are beautiful and attractive at a certain age. It's saying age.
You're saying 18, 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25.
Well, than ageist, perhaps, but misogynistic, absolutely.
Is that what it? But you just accepted it was misogyny.
No, I didn't. You said it was misogyny. I'm telling you, no, it's not.
So you don't think if you're saying slightly hateful things about a 25-year-old...
That's not slightly hateful.
Well, it is. You think you say that to a woman's face if she's 25?
It's not slightly hateful. When
So you would go up to a 25-year-old woman and tell her exactly what I just read out.
Why would I walk up to a random 25-year-old?
Because you said it in public
and
on
say
the
that.
internet, and it's been listened to and watched by millions and millions of young
Correct.
impressionable boys.
Correct. There was a
Okay, so I just want to make it clear. The assumption that a 25-year-old woman has more promiscuous relationship is completely false. All right, you could be you can find 18-year-old being more promiscuous than a 25-year-old. So it's a very it's not just a white and black. All right, it's not a scientific thing. It just is his assumption. He thinks that maybe some women who are 25-year-old has more relationship. No, where I am from is completely different. You can actually find from my country 25-year-old virgins. They never seen a man. Okay, maybe on where he lives, in the country that he lives, the context is different. So you cannot just take this and say it applies. It applies everywhere. It doesn't apply everywhere.
large panel. There was a conversation. There was hours long of conversation. There were feminists attacking men for toxic masculinity and attacking me and saying things. And I said things back which were going to antagonize.
But I think,
so which you've done yourself a bunch of times.
I think a lot of allegations of toxic masculinity are not toxic.
Correct.
I do think that kind of sentence I just read out, that paragraph, is actually toxic. If you genuinely mean that, and you say you wouldn't say it to a woman's face, but you said it in public about women of that age, I do think that's misogynist. And I think you probably do too.
I don't think it's misogynistic. I understand why it can be insulting.
So you wouldn't say it to a woman's face?
Well, it depends. You're making out like I'm walking around the street going up to random 25.
Well, you're doing it to tens of millions of people online. There's no difference.
Not at all. We're discussing a topic. We're discussing the ideal age of a man.
Should young boys, right, in their teens, are you comfortable that they would have that mindset? Be honest.
I think that young boys in their teens lack life experience. They lack nuance, and they need to be very, very careful what they're digesting online, whether it's my content or anybody else's. I think
you know for a fact millions of them are digesting exactly what you're saying.
Completely. The entire internet, to a degree. I think any subject you can find, there's going to be a whole.
I come back to the Joe Rogan thing, Andrew. Is that a lot of what you say, I agree with.
Yeah.
Right. I do genuinely. I've read a lot. I've written a lot of stuff you said. A lot of the stuff you talk about, I think it's got a good point. Right. So we agree about a lot of things. But when I read that kind of thing, I'm like, how much of that is you? How much of that is some act? Do you regret saying stuff like this?
I don't.
And actually, do you see it as weakness to admit you shouldn't have said something like that?
No, I don't live with regret. I think what's happened is that, like I said, long format content, arguments with feminists, arguments with the toxic masculine crowd, arguments with the left, and they're going to take a small clip, a small sentence from ours, and they're going to try and paint me as a.
But I'm not left or right.
I don't know what you are, Piers.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point.
And I understand. And you're doing exactly as I knew would happen on this interview, which is because you're a busy man. You're not going to watch hours and hours and hours of video.
Actually, I have watched hours and hours of video, and I'm going to come to the stuff where I.
For the record, I did watch a lot of Andrew Tate's videos, so I know exactly most of the what he said.
Agree with you, and I'm going to come to the stuff about your censorship, which
Sure.
I have issues with. So this is, it's a long interview, right?
Sure.
I just thought off the top, you said to me, and you were quite bold about it. Well, go on, then let's go through this.
And you should keep going. I will sit here and stand by what I said. I believe that.
On that, I've just read to you.
Yeah.
Do you wish you hadn't said that?
Guys, 50% bigger meals are here, and they're made for men with serious appetites. Introducing.
I understand how it's been misconstrued. I understand how it's been weaponized against me. Do I regret it because it's been weaponized and used against me? Well, that's slightly annoying.
That's not why I want you to
did I
regret.
at the time mean what I said in the context of the conversation, which obviously you're not familiar with, and the people at home are not familiar with? No, I meant what I said.
The 25-year-old.
All right, Andrew Tate is just it's really disappointing me because on one hand you have a strong opinions, and he just repeated what you said, and at some point you got to admit you got to take the responsibility of what he said. You cannot say weaponize, people weaponize. Okay, if this is what you said. What he said is women are the properties of man. So you have to take the responsibility and accept your opinions. And I think he's really doing himself a disservice by trying to blame everyone and for his own opinions. For the record, I do agree with a lot of what he said, especially on other video, not this interview. Okay, and right now he's at the point where they put the spotlight on him. If people put a spotlight on you, you'll be able to. If you are not able to really clarify your opinion, your positions, if you are unsure about your position, you probably shouldn't take them. Just to put them aside, because maybe you don't have all the ingredients to make a clear decision, to have a clear opinion, to have a clarity about your opinions. All right. If you're not sure about it, don't really hold to strongly to opinions. All right. You should be able to do not be too rigid on your opinions. Okay. You should be able to accept to accept when you are wrong. All right. And the things that you strongly believe in, then you should be able to present them clearly, and people can agree with you or do not agree with you. But in this case, it's just a confusion. It's a completely confusion, and he's not really able to clearly put his opinion about what he believes in this context. When in this interview, when it comes to whether women are the properties of men or not. So I think, all right, let's watch.
There are women that just talk to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for meat and clean up.
Well, there's a whole bunch of context and conversation around that's been missed, and I
don't think I'm missing much context.
Well, I encourage people who are interested to go watch it.
I mean, I've just read out 3 sentences on the bounce there. I don't think there's any context I'm missing. I mean, you made it pretty clear what you think about the difference between 18 and 90-year-old women.
I wasn't talking about myself, even. I was talking with a Muslim guy who was on the panel, and he was explaining how youth is very valued in most parts of the world, and why virginity is valued in most parts of the world. The feminists were arguing against it, and I was sitting there, actually very much like you, a mediator between the two, explaining why in most of the world still today, perhaps not in the Western world, virginity is coveted, youth is coveted in most of the world, and throughout all of human history. And I was sitting there making the point, explaining why in certain parts of the world they think how they do, even though it's very different to the Western world. So I was making a point, mediating between two groups very similar to yourself. The conversation has been misunderstood. They've taken this clip of it and it's been weaponized and used against me. I understand that. It's because I'm now the most famous Google person on the planet. It's inconvenient, sure, but I'm definitely not a danger to women in any regard.
Yes, I want to confirm that. Yes, virginity is something that's very regarded as a sacred in a lot of cultures. There's no question about that. But I do not think a lot of 18 years old are supposed to be virgins, and 22 or 25 are not supposed to be virgins. I think in my culture, you could be 25, but you can still be virgin because of the religious context. All right. So it is different. It's not across the board. Maybe in the US, if you find a girl who's 25, because there's a lot of promiscuity out there. That's a completely different context. But being 18 doesn't necessarily mean she's going to be she's a virgin. That assumption is completely wrong.
Date women 25, 26, 27 years old all the time. None of them are offended by the things.
I don't think you're a danger to women. I think the danger, if it concerns you, the danger is the influence you have on young men to have this kind of mindset about women. And that's really where I'm trying to get to what you really believe and how much you've just shot off because you think it's like entertaining and you haven't really given it much thought. And whether now you're a bit older and you've had all the fallout, whether part of you is thinking, actually,
I mean, I don't think people should blame Andrew Tate if young people just try to follow him. I mean, he's on the internet, he's doing his own thing, and you know, if young people tend to follow or to follow him, that's not really his responsibility. At the end of the day, he should be responsible for his own opinions, and he shouldn't be held responsible for people who follow him or you want to take him as a hero. He shouldn't be blamed for that.
if I had, as Joe Rogan says, if you hadn't said stuff like this, you'd probably still be on these platforms. You'd be massively more popular, massively more famous, massively richer. So I'm really just trying to get to, on the blatantly misogynist stuff, do you just wish you hadn't said it?
With great power comes great responsibility. It was certainly said before the great power came. It's inconvenient to a degree. However, like I said at the time, with the context of the conversation, I know that I'm not saying things which I believe to be detrimental to the world. However, they've been misconstrued, they've been misunderstood.
If a 25-year-old woman was watching this, would you say, I'm sorry for saying that?
Well, I wouldn't want anyone to be offended by anything I say, but I say things. But I say things that offend, and this is the thing.
Listen, I don't think Peter Morgan should ask him to apologize for opinions. No, I don't think that's right. If he really believes in a certain ways when it comes to relationship with men and women, you know, he has a right to do so. Okay, so that's the differences of opinion. Okay, I don't think he should ask Andrew Tate to apologize for what he believes. That's not the right way to go. If he believes that, that's his problem. All right. Do not, you know, that's the problem that people have. They want to force everyone to believe, you know, to have an acceptable opinion. Okay. I don't think that's the right way to go. If he believes that way, all right, let him believe that way. But you don't want to force everyone to believe the way you believe. That's called religious extremists. That's what the religious extremists do. They want to force everyone to believe their way, okay, their own way. That's the reason why I have a problem when in the US, they try to criticize China, they try to criticize Russia because they are not so-called democracy. They don't so-called, so they don't have like, I don't know, elections and all of that. But they have a different worldview, and we have to accept that. And okay, for me, it's all about the accepting diversity of opinions, diversity of worldview. But some people they want to force the rest of the world to just adopt one you know, a viewpoint that's only, you know, one way. And I do not believe in that. I completely disagree that approach. We are different. We have different cultures. We came from different backgrounds. We should be able to have different worldviews. Okay, and we should not force our views onto others. All right. So respecting each other's view, that's the goal. But we shouldn't really impose our views on others by force or by coercion.
I think that's interesting, Piers. Please let me finish.
I mean, you're behaving like a politician. But hang on. You can say I'm interrupting.
You do.
But you're answering a different question to the one I asked you. So as an interviewer, you're behaving.
Sure. Okay, listen. Sure.
Okay, you accept that. Let's accept we both got on. Okay. So again, my point is simply, if a 26-year-old woman is watching this and has heard those comments, would you just say to her, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that?
No, I won't.
Yeah, but that's not his problem, man.
You. However, there's a large contingent of the world.
That doesn't mean you're sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. That's the point I'm making. I'm sorry if that offends you. However, there's a large contingent of the world that believe that, and I was mediating for a conversation.
Parts of the world that believe that about 26-year-old women are parts of the world where women are not allowed out on their own.
That's a conversation.
They have to wear full burqas.
Well, that's a conversation.
They're not allowed to drive cars.
That's nothing to do with it.
But is that the kind of world for a women that you?
I was mediating a conversation.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I don't live in a country where that happens.
So you're using that as the excuse for why you're not sorry for saying it.
It's not an excuse.
Because there are parts of the world where this is fine.
My friend.
So my question to you is, well, do you think it's fine?
I don't think it's fine. I live in a world where
you don't think it's fine.
The reason
This
I'm
isn't that hard, Andrew. You can simply say, Piers, you know what? With the benefit of hindsight, I wish I hadn't said it like that. And if a 26-year-old woman's watching, I'm sorry I said that, because that actually is blatantly misogynist. And even though that's a view held by other parts of the world, it's not a view I
Okay, if he believes it, he shouldn't be sorry. Let's move on.
share. Now, I would respect you more if you said that.
Yeah.
Than if you try and say, well, it's said in other parts of the world, so I'm not sorry.
I think
That doesn't tell me what you think.
then you need to understand why my content existed in the first place. My content existed because I tried my very hardest to be an absolute, not a realist, especially with uncomfortable truths. I was pointing out that very uncomfortable.
Is that a truth?
It's an uncomfortable truth in many parts of the world. It's not a truth that I'm happy about. It's not a truth
Well,
I
hang
created.
on, no, hang on. You're doing it again. What do you mean that's a truth in other parts of the world? That's what you said. It's not, you're not talking about another part of the world. You're talking about what you believe is the difference between 18 and 90-year-olds and 26-year-olds.
I was talking about
Your belief.
I was talking about what the people on the panel think the difference is.
So what do you think the difference is?
I think the difference is age.
What's the difference then?
Well, then a 26-year-old's older than a 19-year-old.
And so you stand by what you said about talking with the guys, being to the club more times, being left to dump more times.
Well,
Do you believe that or not?
No, there's plenty of 26-year-old women who have been with one man or virgins,
Right.
of course.
So you don't.
Yes,
I
that's my
don't think
point.
that the age is the only thing
That's my
gonna
point.
decipher about how many men and women.
Right, so if you don't actually believe what you say, just say sorry.
It's not about not believing what I'm saying. It's about you understanding that there's large conversations going on.
I'm just reading back stuff you've said.
I know
and
you
I'm
are.
asking you, do you believe it?
I believe that it's more likely a 26-year-old's had more partners than a 19-year-old.
You don't know that.
I don't know that. You're right.
In fact, there can be absolutely no evidence for that whatsoever.
Completely agree.
So why say it? Why stigmatize all 26-year-old women?
It's not about we're repeating ourselves here.
We're not really. I'm just trying to get to what.
All right, so you see, Andrew Tate, he doesn't want to come across as weak, as somebody who's conceding an opinion. If you don't really believe in it, why hang on to it? I mean, there's no point. Yes, I just asserted, but I don't really believe in it. Just move on. But I think we are just wasting our time on opinions, and oh boy.
You actually believe.
I believe that men find youth attractive in general. I believe that in the context of the conversation,
25-year-old women aren't old.
I agree with you. They're not, especially I'm old. I'm a lot older than that.
Hmm.
The point I was making was part of mediating a panel, a conversation between feminists and some Muslim guys.
I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
good.
But
So you understand why I said the sentence.
But as far as I know, you weren't espousing what a Muslim man might think. You were espousing what you think.
I was espousing what the people on the panel believed.
But you were saying what you think.
I feel like you're trying to pin me down.
If it's not what you believe, just say I don't believe it.
What part wouldn't I believe?
Well, you tell me which part you don't believe. There's the
Okay.
sentence. Which part would you now say you don't?
All right, let's make it very clear. When you say Muslim man, that's very vague. All right. So are we talking about Arabs? Are we talking about people, I don't know, Africans? All right. Are we talking about Nigerians? Are we talking about I don't know, Chinese? That's very vague. And if you're talking about Arabs in Middle East, they have different traditions. If you're talking about Africans, let's say in Chad, even though they are Muslim, but they still have traditional customs that they take into consideration when it comes to marriage, when it comes to relationship between men and women. All right. So Muslim, that's a very vague. You have to be specific.
I believe that 25-year-old women perhaps have had, because they've been alive longer, maybe have had more partners, but I don't believe that makes them a bad person.
Right. But you understand that the way you phrased it makes every 25-year-old
I understand.
a bad person.
No, I don't think so.
Of course you do. Not stupid. Come on.
Piers.
Andrew, you're not stupid. You know what that sounds like to any 25, 26-year-old woman.
Completely. And
right? So you have maligned every 25, 26-year-old woman with that statement. And I'm simply asking you, to all those who are not of the type of women that you've described here, are you sorry?
I don't want anybody to be offended by anything I say. I want to be a positive force in the world. I don't want anybody to hear what I say and make them feel bad about it.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Yeah, you should have an opinion. If people are offended, that's their problem. Okay? We all have different opinions. I have my own. You know, if you don't agree with me, if you're offended by it, that's not my problem. That's my opinion. I think he's backtracking now.
About themselves. I want all people to live righteous and good, whether they're male or female. And anybody
You lead a righteous life?
I think I do, yeah.
You're openly having 6, 7 partners at once.
All right. You see? Okay. I don't think being a pimp, you know, is a righteous life by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. All right. Let's not pretend to be holier than thou. Okay, if you are religious, righteousness has a different context. It has a completely different concept. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. But if you think you're religious and you pretend to be righteous, and you can fornicate, all right, with multiple women, all right, and you do pornography, I don't know, whatever, pimping, I don't think that's a righteousness. Any religious person will agree with that. All right, righteousness has a specific meaning when it comes to religious context. If you're a believer, righteousness means you have to only you have to only have a relationship with your wife, somebody that you married. No, okay, you cannot have a relationship outside of the marriage. So there are introductions, some of the things that you cannot do. Okay, but don't call yourself righteous and they do completely the opposite. I don't think that's I don't think you're fooling any or no one in this case.
So is that righteous? I'm not taking there's no moral view from me. Simply asking you what you think righteous means.
I think righteous is living true to your heart and knowing that you're doing good by people, not snaking anybody, not lying to anybody. I know I live a very righteous life.
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
How many times?
Plenty. I believe in love between men and women.
Real love, where it's,
I believe.
How many times would you say?
Enough. I believe men and women are a beautiful union. I think we're slightly different, but when we work together, we're the most powerful force in the world.
How many women have you loved?
I don't know, Piers.
Give me a ballpark. 5, 10, 20?
Let's say.
You don't forget how many people you've been in love with.
Let's say 10. I mean, I've been in love, and I certainly believe that men and women, when they work together, is the most beautiful force on the planet. I believe in family. I believe in children. I believe in.
If you believe in family and children and love,
yeah.
Why are you single?
I'm not single.
Well, you're not married. So.
Well, if I was married, the last thing I would do is advertise it to the feral psychopaths on the internet. So
that's feral psychopath.
Well, that
could be friend earlier.
Can be debated, Piers. But the point I'm making as a whole is that all of these.
Do you want to get married? My point.
No, but let's please for a second.
No, you do.
Let's please for a second because you've interrupted me so many times. I've failed.
Well, actually, I've only interrupted you, just to be clear, when you've actually answered a different question.
Cool. Well, then on all these points you're
making,
on repeat, you're taking these sentences and on repeat you're using you're weaponizing them against me.
Okay, so Andrew also missed an important point that you should bring it up. First of all, marriage is a legal structure, especially in the West, right? So, and unfortunately, a lot of men, when they get married, especially legally, they're getting screwed, all right? So this is a point that needs to be taken. So that's the reason why a lot of men, they do not want to get married in the legal sense, but they wanted to have a family, okay? And be able to have children without having a paper that says, you're legal, you're married, to prove that it's legal. So basically they're saying, I don't want the government to decide the person that I love, all right? So I don't want to bring the government into my family. So this is a point that needs to be really stressed because a lot of men are really, they felt they have been taken for a ride because of the marriage, because of the legal system. So I think at this point he completely missed it.
I'm not weaponizing anything.
Okay, it's fine.
No, you're weaponizing the weaponizing. That doesn't exist.
No problem.
But you said to me, come on, bring it on. Read out all the things that you think are blatant misogyny. All I've done is literally read out all the things we identified from all the research that I thought were blatantly misogynist. I'm giving you the chance to respond. And the only time I've interrupted you is when you try to answer a completely different question.
Understood, Piers. But these things were said in large context where often I'm talking about how, for example, on the same podcast where you've read one of them sentences from, I was talking about how it's a man's duty to die by a woman. And the guy asked me, he said, if 10 men with knives attacked your woman, wouldn't you just, I said, yeah, I'd stand and die. I'd never just run away because I have a duty as a man. I must die on the spot to protect her honor and my honor. I'm talking about a man having responsibility to his duties. I'm talking about the old traditional ways of masculinity. And what happens is a few sentences from such a long conversation is taken and used against
I
him.
understand that.
So I want you to understand that I'm talking about protecting and providing for women. I'm talking about a man
Do
making
you want to get married?
No, but we have to all feed into each other, Piers. I'm talking about
That's
protecting.
not a hard question.
No, but I'm talking about protecting and providing for women. I'm talking about a man being responsible for her safety.
I understand.
So of course I believe in men. Of course I believe in love. Of course I believe in marriage. Of course I believe in family. The idea that I don't believe in these things
I
is
didn't ask you
crazy.
if you believed in it. I asked you if you were going to get married.
One day, absolutely.
You'd like to.
If I'm not married already, I will be married one day. If I'm not,
You might be secretly married.
I could be married, correct.
Why would you not tell me either way?
Why would I advertise to the feral psychopaths of the world who have tried their very best to destroy me for an opinion about my private life and the things that are most sacred to me?
Well, you think if you said you were married, everyone would hate you?
I don't know about people hate me. It's about me understanding that I'm a hard target, but I am very, very protective of the people I care about.
Right. But you believe in the concept of marriage?
Completely. That's what we were talking about the whole time.
What do you think?
We talked about a man giving a woman away. I believe in marriage more than anybody. In fact, I believe in marriage. No, please. I believe in marriage in the traditional sense. I believe a man has a duty to stand up and be a real man. I believe that the problem with the world today that we are facing is that not enough men are sticking to the age-old ways of masculinity. I believe that me standing up and saying a man must protect the woman and provide for her means to make sure that she's safe. He needs a degree of authority to
I have
protect
no
her.
problem with
But people do have a problem with it.
I'm
And that's
sorry.
where we're in now.
I'm over here.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with what you just said. Here's where my problem comes, right? There are a lot of clips of you floating around on the internet, as you know. One of them has you saying, bang out the machete, boom in her face, grip her by the neck, shut up, bitch. Another, you say, slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, bitch, sex. When people see those clips and hear you say those things,
Agreed.
well, I don't think that
You're going to need a smaller cabinet because now you can take all those supplements you're taking.
Sorry for the interruption.
it's not hard to misunderstand it.
It is.
You might say that it's consensual. Other people would say, whether it's consensual or not, it's a very ugly way to talk about women.
Completely. Now let's
Hitting them with machetes.
No, watch the whole video. It's a girl coming at me with a machete and me saying, here, slap the machete out of her hand.
I
She's
understand.
attacking me. So you don't understand. This is the exact
I
point.
do understand.
No, people don't watch them in full. And this is actually what's interesting. And please don't interrupt me on this point. Social media has changed in modern times. YouTube 5 years ago was 5, 6, 7, 8 minute long videos. Now we have TikTok, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, YouTube shorts, Instagram stories. Now anything you produce that's long form.
I don't think that's the case. We still consume long form, long form content. That's the reason why Joe Rogan is one of the number one popular podcasts, because it's a long format. So the idea that we don't consume long format is complete nonsense. That's not the point.
It's cut down to very, very short form. They're interested in clicks, they're interested in engagement. They find the most controversial clips they can on purpose.
You benefited from all that.
Everybody benefits from social media. As do you.
Was it the Hustler? What is it
I had
called?
an online school,
Called
Hustlers University.
right, and their whole job was to promote your clips, make you rich and famous. So you benefited from this system, the one you now profess to hate. You benefited from.
I
all
never
that.
said I
You
hated it.
clickbaited like the best of them.
I never said I hated it.
I just want to point out that Andrew Tate is sometimes it's just a walking contradiction, because sometimes he says one thing, but he completely does the opposite. Okay. When it comes to clips, yes, he has a team that creates those clips and put on the TikToks. All right. He said it himself. So, and the other point that's really important that a lot of guys need to know is he portrays himself as somebody who wants to help young guys, especially I don't know, Simps, the guy who will stay home and watch YouTube all the time. All right. He portrays himself to help those people, but at the same time, he has profiles like OnlyFans, okay, that cater to those to those exact people. So on one hand, you pretend that you're helping those people. On the other hand, you are profiting from their loneliness. You are profiting from their inability to go out and find girls and have a relationship. You see the point that I'm making? So it's a complete contradiction here. If you want to help guys, you probably shouldn't have a team of girls that do OnlyFans, because we know the audience of the OnlyFans girls are lonely guys. The guys who cannot go out and court a girl. So these people are his audience. So I don't know. He's a completely walking contradiction in this regard.
I'm saying what happened. I don't hate it. I don't hate social media. I think it's a very powerful force. I don't hate the social media. I'm saying
The point is, I think you can talk. Look, you can talk to girlfriends of yours, maybe a secret wife. I don't know. It's entirely up
or
to you.
two.
Or two. Maybe you've got 10 wives. That's your business. I don't care, right? My only thing is, I don't care what you do in private. If it's consensual between you and another woman, you can do what you like, right? It's your life. I believe in freedom and liberty. It's when you say in public, it's the influence that this kind of thing has on young men.
Agreed.
Right? And I speak with someone with 3 sons, right? It's who, oh, by the way, they're intrigued by you. They're fascinated, right? You're a big thing in that world of TikTok and so on. So they all are aware of you.
Okay, Piers Morgan, first of all, you should be the man who really, teaches your children to have the worldview that you want to give them. If they tend to be persuaded by somebody online, I think that's your failure. It's your responsibility to give your children what you really believe in, the worldview that you want to give them. Okay, so don't blame Andrew Tate for your own failures. Okay, so let's make that clear.
What you say, so they're all looking, and when they see things like the machete thing, I get the context, because I'm a 57-year-old guy who's been around the block a bit, and I can get what you said, and you responding to a particular scenario which you'd created where a woman.
But it can be misunderstood.
I understand. So my point to you is, given that you know it can be misunderstood, do you regret saying things like this on camera where it can be disseminated by less intelligent young males who think that is actually what they should be doing to women?
And finally, we get to the point of the issue, which is the point I tried to make at the very beginning. When I made a video before I was famous that got 500 views, me being concerned that 1% of people will misunderstand it was not relevant. Where you start getting 5 million views a video, 50 million views a video, 1% of people misunderstanding
Doesn't change what
becomes no, it doesn't. But it becomes a much larger problem. So with great fame comes great responsibility.
Right.
So
I agree.
Would I, now that I'm famous,
yes.
do I say things the same way as I did back before I was famous? Absolutely not.
Right.
So you are what do you call it? So you are a fraudster then. I mean, so then you are a fraud, basically, right? So on one hand, you have a different view, and on the other hand, you have another view. So which one is it? Which is really Andrew Tate? Okay, Andrew Tate, he has views when he's not famous, or Andrew Tate today when he's famous, he has different views. So which one is it? Or are you an imposter? Okay. So we have to be very careful, when people like that come up on the internet, we have to be very critical of what people say. Okay, you have to pay attention. Don't be really, I don't know, be mesmerized by their eloquence, by their gift of God, all right, by their persuasion. You have to really read between the lines and understand what they are saying. So what he's basically saying is he changed his views. When he wasn't famous, he said things are completely different than what when he's famous now.
Neither would you or nearly any other famous person on the planet.
So
Once you become famous, you have to be a lot more careful with how you say things.
I understand. So my logical follow-up to that remains: do you regret then saying it the way you said it?
I can't live in regret by saying something before I was famous on a camera, which barely anybody watched, and then I became famous after.
Okay. All right. So, what I respect about Alex Jones, I think you guys know Alex Jones. Alex Jones never changed his opinions. All right. Even when he wasn't famous, he's been saying things for years, the same thing. All right. I respect that. But if you just flip-flopping, okay, because when you're not famous, you say one thing, when you're famous, you say something else. That's flip-flopping. I don't think there's integrity or there's consistency there. Okay. If you really believe in something, you should be consistent on it. At least we can respect that. Okay. Otherwise, you're just an imposter. You're not trying to, I don't know, maybe take advantage of people.
That would be a very asinine way to do the world.
So
I can't live in.
you stand by all those
I
things?
can't live in regret because I didn't know I was going to become the most famous man on the planet. That regret would be the wrong word. Is it inconvenient? Sure. But I can't sit here and say, I wish I knew 6 years ago I'd be the most famous man on the planet and monitored all of my speech forever. That's asinine.
You see, but one of the problems that people have with you is that they think you have a malevolent influence on young people. This was the excuse that was put out by the big tech companies.
Excuse being the key word.
Well, it may be actually. I intrinsically I have a problem with censorship. I don't think Donald Trump should be banned from Twitter, for example, because the Ayatollah of Iran remains on Twitter and other social media platforms. And whatever I think of you, you're not the Ayatollah of Iran, right? So to me, there's got to be perspective here. And I don't understand the inconsistency by what companies like Twitter, how they treat the leader of Iran and someone like you. It seems to me they're much more draconian on people like you than they are with people who perhaps should not be allowed platforms. But generally, I don't really agree with no platforming people. But I think what's interesting talking to you is it seems to me like you have gone on a bit of a journey of self-awareness about the impact of some of the stuff you said in the past. And you have said you wouldn't say it again in the same way. Now, you may not want to express regret for that, but it shows me that at the very least, you have evolved to somebody who recognizes that these can be quite damaging in the way that you said them.
Completely. As a professional and as an adult, it would be stupid for me to sit here and say that now.
I don't think he evolved. He maintained. I mean, he was kind of flip-flopping, and he never made it clear. This is what I believe today. This is what I believe back then, and that there is evolution in my thinking. He never said that. Okay, so he never admit to that. So let's be clear. He's just a flip-flopping because now he's famous. He's trying to adjust himself. So, okay.
I'm the most famous man on the planet. My words do not have more impact than they did before. With impact, with power comes responsibility, and things need to be worded in a very careful way. Now, when I do a long format interview, I have to sit there and consciously understand that any 10 seconds of that can be cut and used against me. So I have to be a lot more careful with how I say my words and how I construct my sentences. Of course, we agree with all of that. That's exactly what's
okay. You can be careful about what you say, but at the foundation you have your beliefs. If you believe the world is flat, you cannot just be cautious about it. All right, by thinking that people will misconstrue it and put it out of context. But at the end of the day, even if people do not understand it well, you still believe that the world is flat. I don't think that will change. All right. So yes, you want to be careful about how you say some of things, but it's still, if you have a strong belief, you shouldn't be, I mean, it's not trying to insult people or try to say outrageous thing for the sake of outrageous thing, but at the core, if you believe strongly on some of the topics, I think you shouldn't be cautious about it. You just say clearly, there is a difference between being cautious, all right, and stating your own belief, what you really believe about, the relationship between man and woman and the world in general.
It's happened to me. I agree with all of that. I don't want to be seen as a negative influence in the world. I know that there's a whole bunch of men. I get thousands of emails a week from men whose lives I've saved. I get thousands of emails a week from men who are on the verge of suicide and I've saved their lives. We're talking about.
And by the way, I don't dispute that at all. You have almost certainly, I would think, from everything I've read about you, I think you have certainly been probably able to be very helpful to young men who have really struggled with self-confidence and all that kind of thing. I'm completely prepared to accept. But there was also, I think, quite a disturbing piece that BuzzFeed did. And it talked about the negative impact of young, impressionable male minds when they've read or seen some of the more inflammatory things you said. And they quoted, for example, Sandy, 22 from Washington. My father's gone from a man who minored in women's studies in college, treated all people, men and women, with kindness, to a man who says that whenever he sees an effeminate male stranger, he gets an overwhelming urge to murder them. He loves podcasts. He listens to a lot of podcasts. I know he's listened to Andrew Tate.
Whoa. Let's stop for a second. Let's be professional here, Piers, because you're a professional as am I. First, she said, "Did you say that my father went?" She said, "My father has."
Her father.
That's a full-grown man. Firstly, so we're talking about my impact on children. You just talked about full-grown man here. Secondly, I've never talked about murdering effeminate men in anything online ever, in any context ever. So I don't know why they have taken some random person I've never met in the world who's full-grown, an adult, and come to their own conclusions who I've never met and lumped his name in with mine. That is absolutely unfair on every level. I didn't read this.
What is your view?
I mean, at the end of the day, Andrew is not responsible for people, whether people will follow what he says or not. I mean, at the end of the day, people have to make their own mind and, make their own decisions. And he shouldn't be responsible for that. Okay. I think I made it clear because there are, otherwise there are a lot of lunatics out there. So, I mean, should everybody listen to them? Okay. As a viewer, you are responsible for your own actions. Okay. So Andrew Tate should not be responsible for how people perceive his message. But the problem with what he failed to do is to really clarify his opinions, to really clarify what he believes. That's the problem that I'm having there. Okay.
Read this BuzzFeed article, but after hearing the first point, I know it's trash. That is complete garbage.
What is it?
Say that I'm the reason this man believes what he believes.
I've seen a quote from you, and you can tell me what you think. But sure, you talk about people don't want to see men dressed up in dressing, transgender.
That's not exactly what I said.
What did you say?
I said the reason I am so popular and I'm so famous is that there's a large contingent of men who don't want to wear makeup, who still want to make money, go to the gym, be strong, drive a fast car, be traditionally masculine, and don't want to be shamed for that. They don't want to be called toxic for that. That is the reason I'm so massively famous. That is what I said.
What do you think of transgender people?
That's nothing to do with me. I'm not transgender and I don't understand the issue like they do. They
Are you transphobic? Do you consider yourself that?
Transphobic? Well, afraid?
Well, kind of, yeah.
I don't live in fear, my friend. I have no problem.
You have a dislike of transgender?
I don't know any transgender.
You have a dislike of what they stand for, what they are?
No, why would I? That's not my issue. That's not my issue. And that's actually quite interesting because when I was attacked, a lot of these stupid articles like BuzzFeed, because it's ridiculous, that first point proves anyone with a brain knows that's garbage. When they attacked me, they lump a whole bunch of things in together. They say misogynistic, racist, transphobic. They just put them all together. I'm mixed race. I don't know where they get these. They just get these buzzwords and put them in a sentence.
I completely agree.
It's crazy.
And I've had the same thing done to me.
Okay.
And I'm not calling you anything. I'm asking you what you personally believe you are.
It's not an issue I discuss. What I do discuss.
So you support transgender people?
I support individual liberty. I'm a
Okay, listen. One can have a strong opinion about transgender people, okay? People have the right. So not everybody approves of people who are approve of people who are transgender or lesbian or gays, okay? So the idea that we are all have to be in somehow all have to believe the same thing when it comes to issues of transgenderism, okay? I don't think that's the wrong way to go. He can believe, he can have a different perspective, all right? So he can have a strong opinion about transgenderism. That's not, that's his right, okay?
Terry.
Yeah, so you support transgender people?
Sure. Why not?
Exactly, yeah.
So, but my point is, as a whole, you're saying that I'm saying I don't want to see men in dresses. I'm saying no.
You support gay people?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a large.
Okay, all right. I think the question is also a little bit for gotcha question. What do you mean? Do you support gay people or do you support transgenders? All right. What does it even mean? People have the right not to support it, or people have the right to go against it. Okay. So even the formula, I have a problem with the formulation of the questions, and and I'm not quite sure if Andrew is really confident or really believes in what his response. Does he really support transgender people or gays? I don't think there is a really confidence in his response, and I have a problem with the formulation right there.
Contingent of men in the world who like the idea of the traditional masculine view of the world, who feel happy when they watch 80s action heroes with big muscles and they run around. And there's nothing toxically masculine about having a fast car and a beautiful girlfriend and making a bunch of money. And
nothing at all.
Absolutely. And those are the people who are my fans.
But the problem is, okay, I'm going to interrupt you just to say this. No.
Okay, but you're saying that I have a problem with men in dresses. I'm saying no. The people who watch my content.
That question you've answered.
Yeah, but the people who watch my content don't want to see men in dresses. Clearly, I don't wear a dress. That's the point I'm making.
Why they're watching your content?
No,
you're not wearing a dress.
No, but that's the point I'm making. That's the point I was making. There's a large contingent of men who are not interested in the things that perhaps the YouTube algorithm's trying to feed them.
I think there are lots of. Look, when you support masculinity and masculine traits, I'm with you. Right?
Okay, so you agree a man should protect and provide for a woman?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you agree if you were walking down the street with a woman, you'd be responsible with her safety?
Yeah.
Cool, absolutely. So if that woman wanted to walk alone,
I don't think I have authority over the woman as we do that.
Okay, so let me ask you another question, Piers, because we are professionals. Let's say your woman decided she wanted to take a nice little walk through the south side of Chicago at 2 a.m. and she wanted you to go with her, and you were responsible for fighting and dying on the spot. She was attacked.
Okay, let me make it very clear. All right, when it comes to masculinity, some of the features that called masculine in the Western world are not necessarily viewed as masculine in different part of the world. Okay, so there are variations. Yeah, there are similarities, but there are a lot of differences. So the idea of masculinity is not universal. All right, there are some different in different culture. Men have different roles. All right, different expectations. All right, so in the West is consistent. I mean, the way masculine traits are portrayed might not be the same as in a Nigeria or in Ghana or in Senegal or in Niger or in Zimbabwe, okay? So, or in China. So the idea that masculinity traits are universal is not accurate.
Don't you think you would say to her, no, we're not going out right now, it's not safe?
Yes.
Okay, so you'd have authority to make decisions.
No.
So
I would say I don't think you should. If she decides to, it's her own volition.
Well, if she decides, you're not going to stop her.
I have no power to stop her.
Completely.
But you think you do?
No, I don't think I have power to stop her.
You do.
No, I think I have power to make the decision. I think, no, that's not sensible.
So if you have the power to make the
I think we are beating the dead horse now. I don't think we're just going back and forth. Let's see if there is anything else that they cover.
You have the power to stop her.
I don't want to listen to you, Andrew.
It doesn't give you authority.
If she says, I don't want to listen to you, Andrew, I want to go on that.
You've got to let me
Sure.
interject when I don't agree with you, right? Where I don't agree with you is that there's no such thing as clinical depression. There absolutely is.
Well,
it's a proven scientific medical reality. There's a different argument about have we gone a bit too soft, right, in schools and all the rest of it. Absolutely. Do I think some people moan and whine too much about their lot in life? Definitely.
Okay.
Are we a victimhood society? 100%.
Okay.
Is there such a thing as clinical depression? Absolutely.
So,
and my argument is that if you actually bracket everybody who's not clinically depressed and doesn't have the genuine medical condition, then actually if millions of people are deemed to have depression, the ones who really need the help don't get it. Well, that's my point.
Well, that I would agree with. You're right. I think it's certainly an overused term.
If you don't accept there is such a thing as clinical depression.
No, I don't.
And that to me is a damaging view.
Okay. Well, let me explain why. If someone comes to me and says I'm clinically depressed or I feel very, very sad, I would say the first thing you need to do is stop accepting the identity of a clinically depressed person. Stop accepting you have no control over this. And what you need to do is stop identifying that way, and let's work together to try and fight against it.
There isn't an eminent doctor in the world who would tell you there is no such thing as clinical depression. Who would not tell you that some people is simply beyond.
I think Johan Hari wrote a book saying exactly that, my friend.
He's not an eminent doctor.
No, but
he's a journalist.
I said depression wasn't real long ago and was attacked for it. Then Johan Hari wrote a book, which
What's
actually
going to do with Johan Hari?
Because he wrote a book proving me right. Most people.
Johan Hari's a journalist.
Sure, and my point is that a lot of people who are clinically depressed are suffering with something in their life, and if you fix the problem in their life, perhaps they won't feel depressed anymore. That's not a disease.
Yeah, but Andrew,
that's situational.
Andrew, you're simply wrong.
If that's what you believe, Piers,
that's what I believe.
I don't believe in things that take power away.
There is not an eminent doctor in the world.
Piers
would agree with
Piers.
I think you know more than doctors.
I can't become clinically depressed.
Why do you know?
Because I don't believe in it. I can't be haunted by a ghost if I don't believe in ghosts.
Well, that's why I'm saying I'm never going to die because I don't believe in it. It's ridiculous.
Perhaps, but if it allows me to live a life where I feel happy.
But here's where you see this again. This is that little area where you lose me.
No, I don't lose you.
You because there's somebody with your.
Okay, so what Andrew Tate is basically making the point is your beliefs create your reality. So if you have some limiting belief, they can really affect you how you behave in life. And that's true. And I talk about belief all the time. If you really believe something, it can manifest in real life. I think this issue comes close to home because I have a brother of mine in France. He's recently acting up a lot, and he's been very paranoid and accusing of people doing witchcraft. And it turns out that he's suffering from, I looked up, and he's suffering from schizophrenia, I believe schizophrenia, yes. So he's basically paranoid. He thinks people are trying to, I don't know, hurt him. You know, he really believes that somebody really did something bad to him. And unfortunately, that really affected his ability to go to school. He couldn't go to school. He's, you know, he has low energy, and he couldn't really study. And he's home all the time. He becomes very aggressive. So when I talk to him, because he already believes, he strongly believes somebody's thing, but you know, somebody did something bad to him. So your belief affects your behavior, affect you know, your physiology. All right. So if you really believe that there are some aliens out there trying to hurt you, that will affect you. And so I think, and it's going to be, I think it will take a professional, I believe, a professional to really look at the issue and come up with the solutions.
The thousands of people who have emailed me saying, my doctor told me I was clinically depressed and it's a disease that I have got in my brain and I can't be fixed. And I started listening to you and I realized that that's not the case and I can fix my own life. And you're the only person who has ever helped me. Thousands of people have emailed me that exact email.
If you think you are single-handedly curing people of clinical depression, you are living in cloud cuckoo land.
I am reading the emails of people who I have cured of clinical depression.
You're reading emails from people who have believed you when you say there isn't such a thing, and they've probably never been diagnosed clinically depressed. They just want to go along with what Andrew Tate says.
I don't think so.
And I think your view of that view is dangerous.
I respect that you think my view is dangerous, and I respect you have the right to view that, to think that. I think that clinical depression, I actually agree with you, is massively overdiagnosed. I've already said that PTSD is a very real thing. I've already said.
I didn't. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
Again, you misquoted me. I did not say clinical depression is massively overdiagnosed. I said that people who claim to be depressed but don't have clinical depression, I think that is massively overblown, right? In other words, there are a lot of people who just have a bad day and declare, I've got depression. And I say, well, have you been to a doctor? Have you been clinically diagnosed? If you have, and you have clinical depression, that's one thing. But if you haven't, we could probably work on some mental strength and resilience skills with you. But a clinically depressed person has an absolutely proven medical condition that is beyond their control.
Not according to me and many others, my friend.
Well, look, what do you know, honestly?
I know.
You're not a doctor, are you?
I think so. When it comes to this kind of issue, right? You don't want to have strong opinions when you really didn't do the research. All right. Yes, it's good to have healthy amount of critical thinking. All right. When you go to a doctor and he's telling you something that doesn't make sense, yes, you should you should be able to really point it out. But we should always consider giving the benefit of the doubt to the professionals. Okay. Right. We should give them the benefit of the doubt first. But at the same time, you don't want to discontinue or to stop your own ability of questioning things. It's really important to question people. If you are not sure about it, you can really have ability to questions, even though it's not your domain. But the tool that will be able to help you really have the answer is questioning and having a critical mind. And so therefore, when it comes to this kind of topic, I think we should let to professionals deal with the issue first. Okay. But we can also have a healthy, a skeptical mind, because otherwise you're trying to be a expert in something that you have no idea about it. And someone that has spent, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years on working on the field, and you telling me you know better than that person, I think that's a little bit stretch. Far as
Trained, are you?
I'm not a
Not a
doctor.
psychiatrist, and all those things.
Sure.
You're a guy on the make who's done very well for himself, spouting stuff off, much of which I agree with, as you've seen in the interview, but some of which is ludicrous, and that's one of them.
It's not ludicrous.
It is.
It's not.
If you said to me, we're in a victimless society, it's going to stop, I'm with you.
Okay.
But the moment you try and deny clinical depression,
I believe feeling depressed is real. I do not believe it's a disease that you catch from the sky and cannot affect. I believe that no matter what happens, I believe you have control of your own mind and you can fight against it. I believe if you change your circumstances in your life, you may feel different. I'll give you a quick example.
yes, I agree with that.
I obviously am not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor. I told him, because I replied to my emails. I said, have you been to a psychiatrist? He said, yes, I'm clinically depressed. I've been on these pills, this amount of time. I'm on antidepressants and it doesn't work. I said, I don't know what to say to you besides this. He said he lost his girlfriend. That's why he became depressed. I said, listen, go to the gym, get a six-pack first. Once you've got a six-pack, email me again. If you still feel like killing yourself, I don't know what else to say. I'd say, strong body is a strong mind, go train. He went, he started sending me progress pictures, emailing me him getting in better shape, and eventually got a six-pack. He's now a professional bodybuilder. And he said, I can't believe I was considering that. I feel so much better, etc. The doctor was telling me he was clinically depressed, he couldn't cure it. He started taking control of his own life, and now he felt better. Now, I'm not saying it's the case for everybody.
No.
I'm just saying.
here's my question. Have you seen the guy's medical record?
Of course not. I just told you this.
So you're just taking his word for it.
I am taking the word of a man who emailed me with a bunch of medications specific.
You're denying proven science because one guy writes to you who you help, and you've not seen any evidence he ever had clinical depression diagnosed.
I'm denying the idea that.
On the back of it, you go on on your rants in public to tens of millions of people denying something because this guy writes to you and says he had it and you cured it. And I think that's a dangerous mindset, Andrew.
That's fine.
And that's where you don't have a responsible view of your influence over people.
Disagree. It's very responsible because I'm saving people's lives. I disagree that if you feel depressed, I disagree that you cannot affect it and change your life and take control and fix yourself and feel happier. I disagree with that.
Do you think
I refuse to accept that there are people out there who cannot become happy, contented individuals. I refuse to accept we live in a world where God has created people who, no matter how hard they work and how good their life becomes, can't be happy. I don't accept that. I accept that the universe is a very giving place and that God loves all of us. And if you try your best and you work hard, you can become a better person. And I also will argue with you, and I'll get to the point.
I agree.
You're sitting here on the platform telling people they have clinical depression. There's nothing they can do about it. It's far more dangerous. Okay, well then, if they have clinical depression.
Why do you misquote me?
No, because you're saying
being misquoted.
no. You're saying if people have clinical depression,
And they said nothing to do about it. They go to a doctor and they get diagnosed and they get help.
then I would argue the point that
Something opposite of what you just said.
I would argue the point that if somebody has depression of any kind, whether it's clinical, whether it exists or not, whether they feel depressed or not, whatever, that taking control of their life, taking personal responsibility, and working hard is always going to be the positive, best thing they can possibly do for their life going forward.
How positive is it?
So sitting here saying I don't believe in clinical depression, you don't believe in depression. No, I don't. I believe that people can take control and fight against things. I believe in personal sovereignty.
Right. Fine.
Good. So we agree.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Piers, you're on my side, afraid of being cancelled along with me.
As I said to you from the start,
That's all
I
it is.
agree with a lot of what you say.
Completely. So
But
we're
I'm
talking about
taking you to task over the stuff I don't agree with.
Sure.
And I'm just not sure you understand why it's wrong, which is in itself quite revealing. Let me talk to you about Alex. Let me talk to you about Alex Jones, right? Who I have a bit of history with. He tried to get me deported from the United States.
Did he?
Yeah. What is your view of Alex Jones?
I think that Alex Jones is a sovereign individual who, very much like the rabid left, deserves a chance to speak on his points of view. I think that the truth on issues is usually somewhere in the middle between two extremes. And I
So you think Sandy Hook was staged?
I don't know anything about it.
You know, he's just been sued by the fans for millions and millions. I have no idea. You don't know anything about it. No. So why would you support someone in public you know nothing about the most infamous?
When have I supported him in public?
You have supported him in public.
I've been on his podcast.
Yeah, but you said nice things about him.
I say nice things about lots of people.
What do you think about this, Joe?
I said nice things about you, Piers.
That's fine.
so
you should,
to sit and say that I've been on a podcast and I say nice things about
But you said you support his right to speak about things like Sandy Hook.
I don't know Sandy Hook. I don't know.
You know what it was.
It was a mass shooting.
School children.
Okay. But to sit and he's actually no, let's stop for a second. Please don't interrupt me. Here's why I know why you're good at your job. First, you interrupt people a lot, which is good. It's a good skill. And then you're gonna prove me right.
But here's
And the timing's good.
Here's exactly what I did. I only interrupt people like you when you either refuse to answer the question or answer a completely different one.
Sure.
And I want to remind you of what the question was.
Fair.
Or when you misquote me back, which you've done repeatedly through the interview, where you say, you see, Piers, you agree with me. And the viewer who's been watching will go, no, you didn't.
Cool. No problem. The other thing you do is you try and set these traps like that. So you're saying
What's the trap you think I'm setting?
You're saying that I agree with every single point of view a man has.
I literally didn't say that.
You're saying, well, you support Alex Jones.
Why would you misquote?
Because you're saying you support Alex Jones and you said you've been on his podcast and he said this. I don't know.
What do you think about it?
I don't know everything he said.
What do you think of it?
I think on his podcast he was cordial. I think he was professional on his podcast. I've also done podcasts with rabid leftists and people who openly hate me.
Is it wrong?
I do a podcast circuit. Okay. So and I don't know everything he's ever said.
When somebody like
I don't know what you're trying to get me here because I did a podcast.
If you let me get a word in edgeways, I'll tell you.
It's a lame trick.
If you let me get a word, I will tell you.
Let's go.
Alex Jones said that Sandy Hook didn't happen, staged by actors.
Okay.
This compounded the appalling grief of the families of those poor 20 children.
Okay.
Who were gunned to pieces by a lunatic with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. They were already grief-stricken beyond belief. And this guy poured petrol onto that grief quite deliberately to make a huge amount of money from his InfoWars fake news bullshit. And as a result, a lot of the families have now sued him and they've won. He's going to have to pay back tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in damages to these families. And quite right, it won't do anything about the pain he caused them. Some of them actually had people turn up outside their houses with guns because Alex Jones had told them that these parents were making it all up. They were all staged actors. It was all run by the government. So I simply say to you, now I've told you that, what is your view of Alex Jones?
I don't see why any of that has to do.
I mean, Alex Jones, when it comes to Alex Jones, yes, he has a right to question the official narrative. Okay, so I don't think if he says something that's illegal, then the law, we let that to the justice system to take care of that. But otherwise, as far as the freedom of speech is concerned, he has the right to, if some of the things that do not make sense, okay, if some of the things do not make sense, he has questions. Okay, and the case in point, a lot of people question COVID, the way the COVID the pandemic, the way it was spread, whether this is something that was, I don't know. People have a lot of questions. So should those people go to the courts to be put to trials? All right, because a lot of people died, right? So if you question the COVID, which is a pandemic that killed a lot of people, will you be in trouble when it comes to in terms of legal sense? All right. So which is a little bit similar to what Alex John said. Okay, which is he doesn't believe the story doesn't make sense. Okay, there are some inconsistent. That's from his perspective. So that's his opinion. If people want to sue him, we leave that to the court.
It's very interesting. I've done the guy's podcast. I know him well. He was professional and courteous to me. When I meet somebody and they show me respect, I show them back. Respect. That's what I do, as I did with you.
You respect him?
If somebody shows me respect, I show them respect back.
So if I don't think that shows you respect, you respect him back.
That's a stupid question.
It's not. It's a logical extension of your argument.
No, if in 1931 I was walking through Germany and a man come up to me and said, "Sorry for bumping into you," I'd say, "Sorry, no problem, mate." I'd show respect back. I don't know. What are you trying to say? That I sanction the Holocaust?
You literally just said if somebody respects you, you respect them back.
I say if somebody shows me respect, I show respect back. That's a good way to go through life.
Whoever it is.
Yes, I agree.
Is courteous to me. I'm courteous back.
I agree. Unless
I have no idea the specifics of the thing you're discussing. I don't understand any of it. I don't know anything about it. You told me your version of events.
When did you go on the podcast?
I was on the podcast about four times in the last 4 years. I did one relatively recently.
So four times you went on Alex Jones's podcast, promoting him, helping him make money.
I don't think it was promoting and helping him because
it's his podcast.
Well, yeah, but I've been on the podcast of people who absolutely hate me. I've been on liberal left-wing podcasts. I've been on feminist podcasts. I know you just sat here saying I would like you to agree. Perhaps we could agree on this point that I'm not feminist. I go on feminist podcasts. I do a podcast circuit.
You're not feminist?
I don't know.
What do you think a feminist is?
Well, let's not change subject here, Piers. Stay on the subject.
You mentioned feminism.
Completely. You're trying to get away from.
All right. So now I think now Piers Morgan is just all over the place. I think I'm gonna just close it. I think we spent a lot of time on things that are very relevant, and at the end it seems like Piers Morgan is not. It's not. I mean, he's not quite sure about what he wants to get to. He's just throwing any subject that comes around. All right. I think so. I'm gonna end it here. If you have a different perspective, you can comment below.